And my warm greeting to you of the Prince George's Community Church. It's a joy to be with you simply by video. My name is Stan Ott. I am with the Vital Churches Institute. We encourage congregations in vitality and a sense of future. I am also the part-time teaching pastor of the Vienna Presbyterian Church just across the Potomac, so I'm a part of the National Capital Presbytery with you, and it's simply a joy to be with you. Matter of fact, some years ago, I had the joy of worshiping with you and sensing the vitality of your worship experience. My role in just a few minutes is to help interpret what is known as the Church Assessment Tool, or the CAT survey that you all took in the last few months, to give a sense of what some of the results were. Now, much of what I say will not be a surprise to you, and the goal of this is really to inspire you to talk more, not to talk less with each other. And if you kind of wonder, I wonder what people meant by that, well, then go start talking to people and ask each other what it means and how you might move into a new and a good future. Before I actually speak about the survey, I would like to discuss with you a little diagram that describes what is known as the church life cycle. It's a little bit different than you might think. There are 3 steps: incline, recline, and decline. But these 3 phases do not have to do with numbers. We grew in numbers, we plateaued, we lost numbers. All 3 steps have to do with vision. So a congregation on the incline knows what its vision is. Everyone is just enthusiastic about who we are and where we're going. And when your congregation was founded 15 years ago, 1980, there was a sense of passion about the vision. Now in recline, in a congregation, this is very common, the vision is no longer quite so front and center. It's still on your website. It might be on the bulletin Sunday morning. But basically in recline, we just go through our programs. It's kind of run last year's program over again is our actual vision. In decline, well, a congregation in decline, the vision is kind of forgotten, and the programs are kind of old and tired, and so there's just a loss of energy. Now, we'll come back to this a little bit later, but it gives you a way of thinking about congregational vitality and where you are today and where you could go. Now, in the CAT survey, the interpretation is called Vital Signs. It's done by the wonderful group Holy Cow Consulting. I will hit a few of the highlights. There's so much material here. But for example, very interesting, one of the questions asked of you had to do with your value for activity beyond the worship experience. And the question was, on the whole, participation in church activities is very meaningful to me. And you answered that question, clearly agree, 64% of you. On the fence, 33%, which means some 97% of you either agree church activities are meaningful or at least are kind of on the fence, you know, it's okay. Only 3% of you said it's the activities are not that meaningful. So your focus is upon the interior life of your congregation. And yet, they went on to say, of all of your survey results, what were the top 3 priorities that you expressed? And the first one was develop and implement a comprehensive strategy to reach new people and incorporate them into the life of the church. Number 1, reach new people. Number 2, make necessary changes to attract families with children and youth. So it's attract more people. Number 3, develop ministries that work toward the healing of people who are broken by life's circumstances. So that while your inner life is very important to you, your outer life and what it could become is also important to you. Very helpful to think about that from this survey. Now, a very interesting graph is this square, and I'll describe it to you because I know the words, the lettering will be very small. At the top is the word adaptable. If you're adaptable, it means you're open to new ideas, to change. You're kind of flexible. Whereas at the bottom it says settled. If you're settled, I like it how it is. Don't mess with it. We're fine. And so you have this open to new ideas to the please don't touch it. On the left side is the theological position. This is progressive, what you might call more liberal. And on the right side, conservative, maybe the word orthodox. Well, your dot is over here. You are clearly a more conservative congregation, theologically, and you're right on the line between adaptable and settled, which means that several of you have a heart for a new idea, new approaches. Others of you are kind of happy where you are, which will mean, in order to move forward, a lot of good-natured, good-spirited dialogue is going to become a very significant part of what you all need to be about. Now, there are a number of summary statistics. I'll touch on a few of them. For example, in the area of hospitality, your welcoming spirit to people who are new, you have 47 out of 100, pretty much in the middle, which in relation to other statistics shows that you're fairly open to new people coming to be a part of you. In contrast, the morale of your whole congregation is at 11. By morale, we mean esprit de corps, the spirit that you share, that among you there's a kind of a low spirit in relation at least to what other congregations might be able to express. You see this from another way of looking at morale. A question was asked. It seems to me that we're just going through the motions of church activity. There isn't much excitement about it among our members. And that question is the one you answered, 90% of you, yes. So there is a sense among you, to some degree, that your programs or your activities have become a little bit going through the motions. In another graph, conflict management, you have 31 out of 100. This asks the question, do you handle conflict in an appropriate way, a healthy way, recognizing that we don't always agree and that's okay not to agree. And this would say that there are times when you disagree, sometimes people aren't as graceful with each other as perhaps they might choose to be. When it comes to governance, 8 out of 100, the question of governance centers on the question, do people have a sense or a feeling that the governing authorities, whether it's the session or other groups, are open to input from outside those authorities? And if the number is low, as it is here, it just means that people have a sense that a smaller group are making a lot of the decisions and would like their voice to be heard a little bit more. Now, when we come to worship and music, the line goes back up, 45 out of 100. Just a solid expression that there are many among you who feel wonderful about the life of your worship experience and about your music. When you put all of these statistics and others that I have not shared, just not enough time, they come up with a very interesting graph. I'll read the words because they're quite small. On the top is what they call high energy. There's an excitement about our congregation. So at the bottom, low energy. The excitement is kind of low, not very strong. On the left side, low satisfaction. I don't really sense that things are where I wish they would be on the left. And on the right, high satisfaction. It's going really well. So a congregation that's high energy, high satisfaction would be up there. You all are here. That is, that there's a sense among you that the level of energy you share and the level of satisfaction could be somewhat higher than it is today. Now, I happen to know a congregation very well that was down here just 3 years ago, and that congregation made a decision that it wanted to grow in spirit and energy. It wanted a new future, began to trust the God who loves us, began to make some shifts. Today, they're way up here, which tells you it is very possible to move into a new future. And one last statistic I thought marvelous. Spiritual vitality. You about peg it. You're 95 out of 100. That is the sense among you that you love your Lord, that Christ is feeding you, is a high sense. And when you go into the details, you see all of the numbers are at 90 and 100. The only one that's only 10% is in response to this question. Although my faith is important to me, I feel there are other things that are more important to me. Only 10% of you said that. In other words, 90% of you felt like, my faith is very important to me. That is a very hopeful graph. So if we go back to the congregational lifestyle, incline vision, recline programs, decline, kind of lost sight of both, why we do what we do and energy in our programs, we recognize that you all today started here and you're probably somewhere in this area today. Now for me, in working with many congregations to talk to you, the good news is what we call the bell curve and the J curve. That no matter where you are, incline, recline, decline, it is always possible to break into a new incline because the God we worship is the God of the new thing. The God who is willing to say, yes, some things aren't the way we want them to be, but I want to bless you with a new future. I love a comment made by a very famous management expert, actually, of many years ago, Edward Deming. He said every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. And you could translate that. Every congregation is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. You know, right now, you are perfectly designed to be, well, in the lower quadrant of energy and satisfaction, but with a good spirit among you. And I met with your steering committee the other night, and they have a wonderful spirit about them. Christ has a future for you. And that means, very simply, it calls for a new humility, kind of an openness on the part of every person to say, Lord, how do I need to shift? What idea do you have for me, for us? A new faith shift. I want to shift my faith to actually trust you more, Lord, in our church. And a vision shift, to be aware of a new vision, which allows me to say in conclusion, to take a faith and a vision shift. That is, shift, change from your current hope for your congregation's future. But whatever you walked in the door hoping for the Prince George's Community Church, shift to the higher expectation that God has a transformational future for your church. Because God surely does. Our Lord's greatest passion is you, His people. He loves you more than you love your own next breath, and He has a future for you. God bless you.